Hi, you guys. It is your girl, Pretty Girl Peeps. It has been a very, very long time, but the people have asked for this video, so here we are. Um, if my makeup looks a little crazy, it's because I had lashes on earlier and I used the adhesive liner and had a lot of crazy news between the last 2 days. And as you can see, my daughter got me all crazily with her food. So it just made sense to just go ahead and take the lashes off for the video because they were kind of drooping and coming off a little bit anyway. But if you clicked on this video, it's not because of my lashes or my makeup. It's because you wanted to hear about my actual breastfeeding journey. So what I'm going to do is try to give my experience. I'm not a lactation specialist, just a woman who decided to try to breastfeed. None of the women in my family had breastfed outside of my nephew's wife, which is technically, an in-law. But yeah, so kind of want to talk about my experience, and then if depending on how long the video gets, I'll talk about the weaning experience as well. I did successfully wean my daughter off. Let's clap it up for that. I'm just gonna really quickly talk about my journey, hopefully with breastfeeding, and if I get into the weaning part, we'll get into that part. So with breastfeeding was something I knew I wanted to at least attempt. My goal was to make it 6 months at least if I tried. I did make it to a year and maybe like a week or two. So I surpassed that goal. So when I was pregnant, I started researching breastfeeding. My husband and I, we even took the breastfeeding class through the healthcare system here where we live in Michigan. So the class was super duper informative. Got a few tips from different moms I knew who had breastfed. But of course, there's nothing like actually doing it and actually being in that scenario. So one of my friends, she's a lactation specialist as well, but she lives all the way in Cali. So, but I'll kind of go to that point in a second. So when I had my baby, I had her C-section. So when she first tried to latch on, all that there was I think they call it colostrum. I feel like I'm saying the wrong word. It's the yellow stuff was only coming out, and it wasn't really a lot. So they were telling me, don't get discouraged. It'll eventually come, your milk will come in. And the nurses were really more so trying to get me to do formula. And I was like, no, that's not really what I want to do. I more so want to breastfeed. That's what I've learned. That's what I like to do. The nutrients and just that bond, that's really, especially, with me having had her C-section, that's what I'd really like to do. So I want to say like maybe the second night, me and my husband were so tired from being up with the baby and her not necessarily really like latching and only getting a little milk and me only being able to pump a little milk. And so he was like, well, just give her formula. And I'm like, no, I don't want to do that. Just give her formula. And nurse was like, we'll just give her a little bit of formula and we'll take her for the night. And, you guys can get some rest. So I cried and they did it. So fast forward, we went home and I was pumping, but she was mostly by that time latching. But it wasn't like, necessarily the best of latches, but I kind of just rolled with it because I didn't necessarily all the way know. And the lactation specialist who was at the hospital was telling me, it's a good latch, you're doing a good job, whatever, but it really wasn't coming out yet, the milk, because it takes some time for your milk to actually like produce. For most people, some people, the milk is just already there, it's just already ready to go. So I think it was like a week or two later, I was really just struggling with the breastfeeding. Like I really wanted to give up. And I reached out to my best friend, and I reached out to my friend who was a lactation specialist as well. And they were giving me tips on like different type of holds and different things to do like that. Because the baby just wasn't latching properly and she would still be super, super cranky and super. So my husband was assuming she wasn't getting enough milk. So what we started doing was like at night when he fed her, he would feed her the formula. I didn't realize the formula was making her stomach like hurt. It was giving her like gas and other things. And that's why she was crying all the time, not because she wasn't getting enough milk. So long story short, that was kind of short-lived because like I said, I don't really think she liked the formula. So we tried like the Enfamil and the Ensure, like the special version of it in the purple. I don't know why I can't think of the name of it right now. But we tried that, and like nothing was really working, but it was like convenient for like in the middle of the night where I just did not feel like pumping and I didn't feel like breastfeeding. So eventually it started to hurt really bad. So I was like, okay, I have 6 lactation visits for free. I'm going to go in person and talk to a lactation specialist. So we went to the lactation specialist, and she was able to kind of see what was going wrong with the latch. So she said that Mel probably had a slight she said that Mel had a slight tongue tie. And so the pediatrician came and looked at it as well, and he said that's what it looked like as well, but hopefully it would reverse and we wouldn't really have to do anything about it. In the meantime, I was putting nipple cream on, and she showed me a better way to get a better, deeper latch and how to help the baby with that. So once she actually helped me, some of that pain started to go down that I was experiencing from the breastfeeding. So I will say, if you are struggling and you have access to a lactation specialist, get one. The La Leche League, I believe, also has really good tips as well on breastfeeding and resources as well. Because I know there's a big stigma, especially in the African American community, with breastfeeding for so many different reasons. But I will say, if you want to try, definitely try. So eventually breastfeeding got easier. And then eventually, because I wanted to actually like go places as well, but I did not necessarily want her to have the formula because we started to realize that was messing with her stomach. So I started like actually pumping or like expressing into like what's called the haka. So those are the little things that you attach like after the shower, and I would get so much milk. Because that's what I had also discovered in the lactation appointment, was that I was an overproducer. So like I was producing so much milk, like I was leaking like all of the time. And hopefully that's not TMI because you're here for a breastfeeding video. So I was leaking like all of the time. So I was collecting the milk with that. So when I did have somewhere to go, my husband could have some milk for her during that time. So because we weren't like letting her stay with anyone, we had said until she got at least her 2nd month shots. But I'll kind of tell what happened with that. So lo and behold, doing good with the whole breastfeeding thing. Around the time of my birthday, I realized like, oh, my sister and my mom, they want to take the baby for my birthday for a day. I need to pump a certain amount of milk. So I had to kind of see how much milk would she need per hour and pump that amount. And I was freezing it. So I was doing, like I said, pretty cool with it. My mom and them had came up there before that for like a couple, maybe like 2 hours. And we went to see a movie. And I think we went to see Bad Boys 2. So I literally had like pumped like 5 ounces like right in that setting before we left. So that was the type of pumping I was doing, like that extreme, really quick like type of pumping. So March came, COVID came, and I got sick after my birthday. Still to this day, don't know if it was COVID or just regular sick. Either way, when I talked to the doctor, she told me when you feed, you need to wear a mask. So for that whole week, and this was when masks weren't really around, I was using a handkerchief or shirts or something as like a makeshift mask to breastfeed. So imagine being sick, trying to breastfeed with this makeshift mask. I kind of just figured instead of me trying to get up and pump, it was just easier to just keep her at the boob. Bad idea, because then she stopped taking bottles. So this is when the exclusively breastfeeding journey started. So after that point, it was just exclusively breastfeeding all the time. And at first it really didn't bother me. I had just gotten so used to like, okay, well, wherever we're at, because it's just mostly the 3 of us, I'll just whip my boob out really quick and just feed her. And eventually that turns into, okay, well, if we're in a line at Popeyes and she's getting cranky, I'm going to sit in the back seat and I'll just whip the boob out and feed her. Okay, we're going from Flint back to, where we live. Okay, cool. Just going to whip the boob out on the highway and just, feed her as we go along. That's a crazy story. We were like really on a time crunch trying to get back from Flint one time. And it was a wild, crazy night anyway. And I told my husband, like, don't pull over because that's just going to prolong the trip. So I'm literally standing over her on the other side, feeding her, breastfeeding her. Crazy, crazy story. But it started to get exhausting. Or, I'm outside and I'm doing something and she's hungry and she's pulling down my shirt, she's exposing me, so it was like, okay, let's just keep going. We got to get to 6 months. So like I said, by that time breastfeeding was super simple, super easy. I knew exactly where to put her. I knew exactly where for her to latch on, all that good stuff. So I didn't really mind. So then, lo and behold, as she got older, babies start to get teeth. As they get older, babies start to move when they're nursing. They start to do the cartwheels, and they call it the tit-tastics. Start to, slide the nipple in and out of their mouth. It just started to become really discomforting, and she started to get so big while still on my boobs. And another part I forgot to mention, so I'm going to stop before I go into that part. I lost so much weight breastfeeding. Probably too much weight. Like, I got so small. I got smaller than when I was in college because with anxiety and then with breastfeeding, exclusively breastfeeding, it was so hard to pull away from her to even go eat that I was losing so much weight. So I eventually had to start like drinking Ensures, like per my friend who's a nutritionist and then also my doctor. So I started doing like 2 Ensures a day, and I had to like up my water intake and like start forcing myself to eat. So like I said, as she got bigger, the struggles just kind of started to get there. And eventually I just stopped. I mean, with COVID, I really don't go anywhere anyway, but it just became difficult to go anywhere or do anything because you have that short window of time when you're exclusively breastfeeding because the baby is on demand. So when they want to nurse, they want to nurse. So you're talking about her waking up so many times in the middle of the night. You're talking about so many times during the day. And eventually I went back to work. So that's when it really, really, really got stressful. I feel like was when I went back to work, because it's like you're trying to get stuff done and the baby's trying to feed, but you gotta type or you gotta get something done. It's just really intense and really a lot. So it was like, okay, I want to try to get her back on the bottle. She wasn't trying to hear it. Okay, let's get her on a sippy cup. And she'd take it sometimes, and wouldn't take it other times. So I remember we let her stay with my mother-in-law for our anniversary, and they said she wouldn't take the sippy cup. Maybe like a month later, she stayed with my mom and my sisters, and they said she took it a little bit. So it was always one of those off and on. Sometimes she takes it, sometimes she won't. So I personally just was like, whatever, forget it. I don't even care anymore. And I was still pumping with like the electric pump that like you had to plug it to the wall, but you had to stay stationary. So I was kind of like, I don't even really feel like pumping anyway. So maybe about month 10, I want to say, I had decided that I wanted to start back pumping because I really wanted and needed for my sanity to get her off the boob, because it was taking so much of my time. It was taking so much of my energy. It was taking so much of just me as a woman. And even though I loved her and I loved the bonding experience and I loved knowing that my body was giving all this nutrient and all this nurturing to my daughter, it was becoming a lot on me and taking a lot out of me. So it was like, for me and also for her, I need to stop some kind of way. So I bought a newer pump, and I'll link the pump that I bought. And then I bought like a nursing bra to put the pump inside so that I could do things while I was pumping. So that made it a lot nicer and a lot easier. So I started trying to pump, and at first I really wasn't getting a lot. And again, she really wasn't taking the sippy cup, so a lot of that milk was going like for waste in a sense. So eventually I think we got down to like month 11. And it was like, I gotta stop. Like, this is really annoying. Pumping's annoying. Feeding's annoying. Like, I was just at the point, like, okay, it was cute. I just want to make it to a year. I don't even know if I'm gonna be able to make it to a year, but this is a lot. So I'm like, ready to be done. Ready to cut the shenanigans. So me and my therapist would always talk about me just weaning her off or me just stopping. I'd be like, yeah, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna work on that. And it just never really happened. So I want to say like around maybe like between, I want to say Christmas and New Year's. It was one of those things like I just was like, I'm going to gradually wean her off. So by the time we get to her birthday, she's magically just going to stop, because nobody tells you like weaning is a process. I think in your mind, you're kind of just like, she's going to get off and we're going to be back and we're gonna be popping, and she's gonna be back, and it's gonna be popping. And that's another thing too, like I really wouldn't drink while I was pumping or while I was nursing, and that was like, I didn't really mind that, but like when you're that stressed, you kind of want to drink, and it's like I would sometimes drink, but it'll be within like the actual regulations. So anyway, that was because I was like, I'm gonna be back and I'm gonna be popping. That's kind of where that came from. So, and again, if you have any questions, I can make a second video. I kind of just wanted to just do my overall experience because again, I'm not a lactation specialist, but I felt it was important, especially being a Black woman, to give my experience of breastfeeding. And don't get me wrong, I loved breastfeeding. It was a beautiful journey and I'm glad I did it. But towards the end, I hated it. Like what is it? Hated it. I hated it towards the end. So I started getting little tips on how to wean, like the bandages over the boobs, trying to gradually do it. And eventually I got her down to 3 feedings a day. So it was the feeding for her first nap, the feeding for her second nap, and then bedtime, and then nursing overnight. I didn't really count because that was just something that was just always going to happen. And I felt like, if she was teething or she had gotten her shot, she would always want more boob anyway. And she was more so, at this point, I felt like she was more so using it as comfort because we had kind of started introducing her to solids, I want to say around like month 4 or 5, but she really still more so preferred the boob, or like she liked snacks and pouches, which the doctor said was fine. But it was like, you're not the one having to pull out your boobs all the time. So, started the gradual weaning process, and it seemed like it was just making her angrier and angrier, and I was just getting more and more irritated. So I was on the call with my therapist, and she's like, you are not liking feeding, you're not liking pumping, just quit cold turkey. And I had looked up cold turkey, and I was like, that just seems so harsh, like I don't want to do that. And then I feel like that day I was just like, nope, today gotta be the day. It's gotta be the day we do it cold turkey. And we just started the journey. And I feel like on the day 7 of that, which I think it took 17 days from the gradual to the cold turkey to really declare it as she's done. I'll put the bandages on my boobs. I'll wear bras because I used to not wear a bra anywhere because I just wanted to be able to just, if she wanted to feed on demand, just pull my shirt down, pull my shirt over. Like I would never wear anything that was super cute or that, she couldn't get access just in case we were out and she needed the boob. That's how intense it was. So I'm trying to think where I was at with that. I just lost my train of thought. So it was kind of like finding those distractions. So making sure she was getting more food, making sure I was monitoring her sleep, making sure that I, found another alternative to get her to sleep because she would fall asleep on the boob. So I was also responsible for every single nap trying to get her down. And that was just a lot. So like I said, every blue moon she'd take a sippy cup, every blue moon she wouldn't. So we started ordering more sippy cups, and we found one with like a nipple from Philips Avant that she really, really likes, and she's using that one now. And then there's a couple Munchkin 360 cups that she likes, but I think she loves the Philips Avant a lot more because it resembles the nipple. So finding different ways to distract her, finding different foods to fill her up. And I was still pumping or manually going into the haka, but I would not do it in front of her. Like my boobs would never be exposed anymore to her because I knew she was going to want them. So it was a lot of crying, especially like the first couple of nights, a lot of crying, a lot of irritation. Like she was pissed at me, like clawing, trying to put her hands down my shirt. Like it was a lot to deal with. So eventually, day by day, it just got better. She eventually stopped. And they said, don't offer, but don't refuse. So by that point, I just would not even let her lift up my shirt. I wouldn't get undressed in front of her, nothing. Like it was no boobs, like at all. And eventually I think she just kind of forgot about it. And it was me making sure, okay, I'm fulfilling this food. And because I was still pumping like in the other room, she still had that milk. So eventually my milk started to dry out. So I had to quickly think of an alternative. So we tried the almond milk, and she didn't necessarily like it by itself. Well, first we tried rice milk, and that I don't think she really liked that. So then we tried my milk with the almond milk, and she did like that. So then eventually like I said, I pretty much dried up except my boobs. Oh, let me talk about that. My boobs were engorged. They hurt so bad, and they were so big. They were like bricks. every single day. So I would kind of express into the hot because I wasn't pumping because I wanted my body to stop, but I wanted to get that milk up off me. So eventually I dried up, and so she just switched totally to almond milk. But a lot of people were saying the almond milk lacked like the protein and different things like that. So eventually we switched her to the oat milk. So that's what she's on now, and that's what she likes now is oat milk. So that's kind of where we are. So I loved breastfeeding and building that bond with my daughter. So I definitely want to say that. But it definitely takes a toll on your mind, your body, your emotions. Like my boobs are so small now, like, and I feel like they aren't my boobs anymore. And I'm gradually coming back into that. And my husband's like, they're back my boobs now, and they're not his either. I just need them to be just mine for a little bit. It definitely takes a lot out of you. It's one of the biggest sacrifices I've ever done. I think outside of grad school, this is probably one of the hardest things I think I've ever done in my life, was to keep another human alive with my body, with my milk. And it's a huge sacrifice that I don't think, especially men, understand. You know, and I would have to explain a lot to my husband, like, well, I just breastfed her, and that took a lot of energy. And you have to drink your water, you have to eat. Like, I would be so exhausted. I felt like I was running on fumes most days. But it's one of those things, like, it's beautiful to be able to say that I did it and did it for that long. And, you know, I tell women, even if you breastfeed for one day, I applaud you, because this is a lot. So to have done it for over 365 days, I got to pat myself on the back, because it was a crazy journey. So I'm like, I don't know if I really have another baby, because I don't know if I would want to do the whole breastfeeding thing again. I think if I did, I would definitely probably stop at 6 months. Another reason I kept going up until a year was because my doctor, especially with COVID going around and flu and everything, he was like, you know, that helps with immunity, the breast milk. So that's another perk. Your baby gets a lot of antibodies, or if your baby's sick, your breast milk automatically changes with the baby. So it really helps them a lot. Other uses for the breast milk are like for rashes, or you could do like a breast milk bath. So there's a lot of different alternatives and things that you could use the breast milk for as well. So if you're starting on the journey, I definitely applaud you. If you're ending, I applaud you. And I think everybody's journey is different. Like, I know people who've done it for 3 years. I know people who did it for 2 years, 1 year, 1 day, 1 month. And I applaud each woman the same. It's definitely challenging. It's definitely different. And I feel like you have to, that's something people don't talk about. You have to have the support. Like, my husband had to realize sometimes there were just certain things that I just couldn't do the same way I was doing, because I had to breastfeed. And that was my major priority 90% of the time outside of work. You know, and I would still cook and still clean. But it's hard when you gotta clean, and breastfed babies are so clingy. Like, I thought I was clingy, breastfed babies are, and maybe this is just my baby, but clingy. But that bond and that love that they have for you is just like, it's just amazing. But I'd probably do it again though. I'm not gonna front on y'all. It's a beautiful journey. But yeah, so this is my quick video on my experience, because people have been asking about it. Another thing that helped with weaning really quick was actually keeping, like, in my notes, I kept like a day by day. I would take notes of when she was sleeping, when she was eating, if she had boob, if she didn't have boob. And that gave me the confidence to see like how far I had come, so that I could know to keep going. And that also helped me track like what she was eating, and if I felt she was eating enough, or if I needed to analyze or do something different for the next day. So that's another tip I have for weaning. I wanted to include this all in one nice little video. So hopefully you guys like this video. I can do a part 2 if people have specific questions. I wanted to keep it really general and just really talk about the experience. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. I know it was a lot in one video. But yeah, and I'll tag some resources below. And thank you for even caring to watch this video. I appreciate it. This journey, I try to be transparent and share what I've went through so that it can help other women, especially women of color, Black women to be specific. So hopefully, and that's nothing against women of any other race or creed, but you know, there's a lot of stigma in the Black community as far as breastfeeding, because of the history of breastfeeding and wet nursing and things like that. So I think it's really important to share our experiences so that we can help each other through this journey. But yeah, so that's my take on breastfeeding and weaning. So it's your girl, Pretty Girl Peeps. Peace out. Bye. Hi, you guys. So I know my hair looks crazy. I just tossed it up so I could go run this quick pickup errand. So I forgot a few things that people asked me about. So I wanted to hurry up and put that on here as well. So one thing people asked about was my cycle or my period. So my period has not came back, even not yet. Even though I feel like I'm kind of crampy, so maybe it's gonna come back. I'm taking the mini pill, which I forgot to talk about as well. One of the downsides of the mini pill is if you miss that joker, you miss it. Like, I don't really know how to explain it, but you technically aren't supposed to miss the pill the same way you could miss the traditional pill. But yeah, so I'm still on a mini pill. Haven't had a cycle since the month before I got pregnant. So I haven't had a cycle since April of 2019. So maybe 22 months ago. So almost 2 years. Another thing was how your boobs are after weaning. So I'll be honest, at first I really wasn't tripping because like I've always been like a size AB my whole life. So being pregnant was the first time I've ever really got to experience having boobs outside of having really nice push-up bras because I used to work at Victoria's Secret. So what I will say is they winded up going back down, being smaller. However, the other day, which is what reminded me that somebody asked me this question, I looked in the mirror and they like had damn near deflated. And now I'm like, I understand why people get boob jobs after babies. I'm not gonna get one. I don't think. I'm not gonna say what I will never do, but I mean, I've always had little boobs, but now it's just like. But at the same time, I'm proud that I nursed a baby, and you know, if they come back, they come back. If they don't, they don't. Another thing that was asked about that I forgot to touch on was the whole what to eat or snacks. What really helped me with production, like I said, I was an overproducer, but once I started, like my production started to go down, I started to, I used Body Armor drinks, granola bars, like puddings and yogurts, and trail mix were really good as far as snacks to help with production. And of course, just drinking loads and loads of water. So hopefully I answered everybody's questions. If you have more questions, comment below and I will do a part 2. I just want to really make sure I came on here and answered those questions because I realized I didn't. At least I don't think I did. I haven't even watched the other video yet to review it, but I remembered about the period question. So thank you guys again for watching. Be sure to comment any questions you may have below. Peace out.